me just say this to you. If you've never been married, let me just say this to you. You need to be content with just Jesus before you ever get married. Because it ain't nobody's job to make you happy. Jesus will make you happy. And until you're happy with just you and Jesus, you better not get married, because you're going to be expecting from your spouse something that they have not been created to give you. It's the job of the Lord to give you peace, joy, happiness, and all of that, right? And so we have to grab a hold of these realities. And I imagine, many of you have been in this toxic cycle. So again, marriage is God's idea. But if you marry the wrong one, it ain't going to be no fun. I want you to remember that. When you're just about to marry the wrong one, sitting up, listen, I know a young girl, and on her wedding day, she said, I knew I shouldn't have married him. Well, why'd you get the dress? It was so beautiful. But on the day of her wedding, she says, I kind of thought I was making a mistake. Listen to me. If that happens to you, you got it. Don't make a mistake just because everybody's, you've seen all those movies where somebody gets left at the altar. Leave them at the altar, honey. Just leave them at the altar. Leave them. Better, you'll leave them eventually anyway. If you don't know that you know that you know, then don't go down the altar. Go into the chapel and I'm gonna get married. Don't do it. Thank God he says he has a lot to say about marriage. Genesis 2:24. Some of y'all single people ain't going to want to get married after this. I'm sorry. No, you are, because you're going to be equipped. Genesis 2:24. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. So you have to be careful not to become one with the wrong one. Let's say that again. You have to be careful not to become one with the wrong one. So let me give you a couple scriptures. Proverbs 18:2. Proverbs 18:2. He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. Let me just say this, ladies. Listen. He who finds a wife. You are not supposed to go out husband hunting. It is the man who is supposed to find the wife. Get off Tinder. Shabbat. Called out. Said, what's Tinder? You don't need to know. You do not need to know. Amen. Amen. Now y'all got me messed up. I can't remember what I was saying. He who finds a wife. Ladies, wait for him to find you. Doesn't mean you need to sit at home waiting for him to find you. Go out somewhere so he can find you. Right? But he's supposed to find you. All these new movies and the women's proposing to the man. No. Let that man get down on one knee and pull out that ring. Amen. Proverbs 21:9. It is better to live in the corner of the housetop than in a house shared with a quarrelsome husband. Somebody say, preach it right. It says a wife, but I don't know why they're always picking on the wife. Sometimes the husband is just as quarrelsome. Amen. Amen. So then how do you discern then who to marry? So let me assure you this, you can't base it solely by the feeling of being in love. Love is not really in and of itself merely a feeling. Love is a choice. So in other words, love begins as a feeling Well, I just love that. And then after you get married, it soon becomes a choice, right? Because that feeling, you can't sustain that for 50, 60, 70 years. Now, some people do, but you know what I'm saying? When you get the day in, the day out, when they leave their socks all over the floor and the toilet seat up, you ain't feeling that love. That's when you choose to love. When she's nagging you to take out that trash, amen, and supper's late and all this, and then she gets pregnant, she's cranky, you ain't gonna feel that love. You're gonna have to choose to love, right? You understand? Walking in love is a choice. So here's just a few things you need to ask yourself. A few things you need to ask yourself. The first thing you need to ask yourself is, and these are not in any particular order, but one of the things you need to ask yourself is, who is this person really? Not just who is this person. Who is this person really? You got to catch that part. Well, who is this person? Well, they work here. Well, I didn't ask you where they worked. I asked you who they are. Who is this person? Well, they go to this church and they prophesy. I didn't ask you what they could do. I asked you who they are. And it takes time to get to know who somebody is. Amen? So ideally, your marriage partner, that man or woman that you marry, your spouse, will first be your friend, your best friend. You know, some of the greatest marriages, the greatest husband-wife teams, they say we were best friends. Not all, but they say we were best friends first. And mostly they're at least friends first, right? And so, because that relationship should reflect the glory of God, right? And it takes time to build just a friendship, much less a marriage. So listen, this is what I tell people. You do not really know somebody until you see how they go through a trial. You don't really know who they are until they hit the rocks, until they hit the skids, until something happens that tests their faith. You do not know who they are. I always say, and this is the same for a friendship or any kind of relationship, until that relationship is tested, you don't know if it's going to make it. Don't get married and then face the test. Have the test before you get married. Walk with somebody through a lot of different seasons of their life. I'm not talking about you have to know them for 5 years before you get married, but there's 4 seasons in a year. You need to see how they behave when they're on the mountaintop, and you need to see how they behave when they're in the valley. Because sometimes it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You got 2 different people going on over here. Depending on everything is going well, it's fine. You do everything they want you to do, they're happy with you. But what happens when you say no? Ooh, you know how to get Jezebel to manifest? You just say no, and that spirit will double up on you. And it can operate in a man, by the way, too. Will Ferrell, he said this, before you marry a person, you should first make them use a computer with slow internet to see who they really are.